Behind everything you see, hear, or touch, there is an invisible, silent, and intelligent field. A field that doesn't respond to the sound of your voice, but to the vibration of your consciousness. And within this field, everything you observe with presence, even without saying a single word, is being recorded, interpreted, and manifested. Most people believe they need to speak to the universe, repeat affirmations, make loud requests, or visualize intensely for something to happen. But what if I told you that true power doesn't lie in what you say, but in what you silently observe? Yes, it's in the stillness of your thoughts, in the purity of your attention, and in the energy you place on what you contemplate, without noise, without effort, that the universe listens most clearly. In this video, you'll discover how the act of observing, when done with presence and emotion, becomes a vibrational command. You'll understand that silence, far from being empty, is the most sacred language there is, the language of the soul, pure communication between you and the universe. Get ready to dive into a new understanding of manifestation, consciousness, and reality. Because the way you observe is creating everything. Silent observation is stronger than speech. Have you ever noticed how, in moments that truly matter, words often disappear? When we're face to face with beauty, true love, deep sorrow, or the presence of the divine, what we feel is so intense that silence becomes the only possible language. That's not a coincidence. Silence is the space where consciousness speaks the loudest. It's where inner truth is revealed and where creation begins. When it comes to your relationship with the universe, it's no different. You can say whatever you want, but the universe responds to what you vibrate when you say nothing. And that's not a metaphor. It's a vibrational law. Your silent attention, filled with genuine feeling, holds far more power than 1,000 words cast into the void. Words can lie, confuse, or try to persuade, but silence reveals exactly what's happening inside you. And that's what the universe reads. Imagine someone saying, "I trust," while inside they're consumed by fear, anxiety, and doubt. The universe doesn't respond to the phrase, "I trust." It responds to the real vibration being emitted. And that vibration is fear. Now picture someone who says nothing but observes life with serenity, with quiet faith, with a feeling that everything is in its right place. That person, even in silence, is energetically shouting, "I trust," and the universe hears it. Silent observation is the purest state of creation that exists, because when you observe something with full attention, without distraction, without judgment, without needing to understand or control, you're sending the universe a clear signal. This is important to me. It's as if you were illuminating that image with your presence, and everything you illuminate with your presence begins to come to life. That's why so many spiritual masters speak of the power of contemplation, meditation, and presence. They're not just talking about staying calm. They're talking about entering a state where your vibration aligns with what you truly wish to experience. And in that state, words become unnecessary. Energy speaks for you. Even when you're not consciously trying to manifest anything, the universe is still listening, because your vibration is always active. And that vibration is shaped, moment by moment, by what you observe with emotion. When you watch something with fear, judgment, desire, or gratitude, your silent observation is telling the universe, "This is what I recognize as real." And the universe responds by expanding that reality. That's why so many things you didn't want still showed up in your life. Because even without meaning to, you were emotionally focused on what you didn't want. And your silent observation was shouting to the universe, "This affects me. This is real to me. This holds me." And the universe responded with more of it. On the other hand, when you learn to direct your observation with presence, with lightness, with pure intention, without needing to speak, justify, or repeat, you begin to operate on another level. You align with the language of creation. You begin to co-create not through effort, but through presence. And the universe starts responding to what you're truly feeling, not to what you're trying to say. How the universe hears the vibration of your consciousness. Perhaps the most powerful question you can ask right now is, how does the universe know what I want if I don't say anything? And the answer lies in something beyond words, beyond thoughts. The universe doesn't hear your voice. It listens to your vibration. And that vibration is shaped by what you observe with emotion, even if you never speak a word about it. Consciousness is a living field. Every time you direct your attention to something, that field moves. And when your attention is accompanied by feeling, whether it's gratitude, fear, love, or worry, the combination of focus and emotion creates a frequency. That frequency becomes an energetic imprint that you send out into space. And the universe, being intelligent and responsive, reads that imprint as a command. It doesn't matter if you're talking about abundance while observing the world through scarcity. The universe doesn't react to your speech. It reacts to what you're truly feeling as you observe. If, when you look at your financial life, you feel anxious, insecure, or frustrated, that will be your dominant vibration. And even if you try to cover it up with positive phrases, the field is picking up what lies behind the words, not the words themselves. Now, when you observe with gratitude, with quiet faith, with loving presence, your frequency rises. And in that state, you begin to emit signals of alignment, of expansion, of receptivity. The universe responds to that like a vibrational echo. It amplifies what you're feeling in its purest form. That's why the key isn't in trying to convince the universe with repeated affirmations, but in consciously choosing what you observe and with what emotion you observe it. Imagine for a moment that your consciousness is like an antenna constantly transmitting signals. Everything you observe with emotion, even in silence, is being transmitted as encoded information to the universal field. That information carries a frequency, and that frequency has an effect. It begins to organize, attract, and align circumstances and encounters that resonate with what you're emitting. If you observe your body with appreciation, even silently, you're sending out a vibration of love and acceptance that tends to support well-being. If you look at someone with repressed anger, even without expressing it, you're transmitting a vibration of separation, judgment, and resistance, and that will return to you in some way. Everything begins with the vibration of your consciousness, because it is what communicates with the creative field of reality. This is the true alchemy of manifestation, uniting conscious observation with genuine emotion. When you look at something with pure intention and aligned feeling, you are creating. Reality responds to this like a sensitive mirror, and that mirror doesn't distort what you say, it faithfully reflects what you feel while observing. So start noticing more clearly what you observe throughout your day. Where is your focus when no one is watching? What do you contemplate in silence, even when your mind is still? Because that is exactly what the universe is hearing. Not with ears, but with presence. And once you understand this principle, you stop trying to force results and begin to work with what truly matters, your silent vibration. Why inner silence is where everything aligns. There's a place within you where everything becomes still, a space without hurry, without noise, without expectation, a silent point where time seems to pause, and paradoxically, everything starts to fall into place. That place is inner silence, and it isn't empty. On the contrary, it is full, alive, rich with meaning, and charged with pure energy. It's in inner silence that truth reveals itself. Not because someone speaks it, but because you feel it. When the mind quiets down, the soul begins to speak. And that's when the universe hears most clearly what you are truly choosing to live. Most people are trapped in a constant mental whirlwind. Worries, to-do lists, inner dialogues, comparisons, projections, fears. This relentless noise prevents energy from organizing itself. The surrounding field, which responds to the vibration of your inner state, becomes confused and scattered, receiving mixed signals. It's like trying to speak to someone in a crowded, noisy room. The message gets lost, the sound is distorted, the connection weakens. But the moment you go silent, something begins to shift. You stop being just a source of noise and become a channel of presence. The waves of thought subside, and in their place arises clear perception. You no longer need to ask, control, or justify. You simply exist. And in that state, you vibrate in harmony with the creative source. The universe then doesn't just listen, it recognizes your energy, aligns with it, and begins to conspire in your favor. True silence is not just the quieting of the mouth or the absence of sound around you. It is a state of internal surrender. It's when you stop fighting what is and start flowing with the higher intelligence that governs everything. In that state, you become coherent. Your feelings, thoughts, and energy begin to vibrate on the same frequency. And that coherence is what magnetizes the field and opens the path. Think of silence as a sacred pause between intention and manifestation. It's in that gap that the seed cast into the universe finds the fertile soil of creation. When you go silent, you allow. You stop interfering, doubting, and disrupting the flow with a restless mind. And what once seemed distant begins to draw near. The invisible starts to move. The field responds, and what you desire begins to take form. It's in silence that faith grows stronger. Because in that space, you realize you are not alone, that there is a loving intelligence holding everything together. You feel, even without words, that what you seek is already on its way. And that feeling, when it's genuine, is the most powerful code you can send out. That's why every true transformation begins with silence. Before healing comes inner listening. Before manifestation comes alignment. Before the answer comes presence. Silence is the language of creation in its purest form, and when you enter it with an open heart, everything begins to align, inside and out, thought and reality, desire and experience. If you want the universe to hear what you truly want to live, start by going silent, not to escape the world, but to listen to what's behind it all. In that silence, you find yourself, and that's when everything starts to make sense. How to observe in silence with creative clarity. Observing in silence is a subtle act, but an incredibly powerful one. It's not just about looking at something with your physical eyes, but about diving into it with your soul, without judgment, without urgency, with total presence. Creative clarity is born from that state, when you're not trying to control or manipulate, but simply connecting with the reality you want to live, as if it already exists, because energetically it does. Many people confuse visualization with forced imagination. They close their eyes, strain their minds trying to see something, and get frustrated when they can't hold the image for long. But true creative observation doesn't require effort. It flows from feeling, not pressure. It's a state where you allow the scene to reveal itself, rather than trying to construct it with mental force. And that's only possible when you become still. Observing in silence with clarity is like sitting before a horizon and simply letting it touch you. There's no need to understand, to think, or to ask how. You simply contemplate. And in that contemplation, something magical happens. Your vibration begins to align with what you're observing. Your frequency tunes into the reality you are feeling. And that's when creation begins. Imagine you want to manifest a new chapter in your life. Instead of rushing to declare it with words or making endless goal lists, you choose silence. You sit, you breathe, you close your eyes, and gently you begin to observe the desired reality as if it's already unfolding. You don't force the image, you feel it. What would it be like to be there? What would it feel like to wake up already living that new reality? What emotions arise when you see yourself in it? As you observe, you allow your body to take part. Your sensations shift, your breathing changes, your heart responds. This isn't passive imagination. It's active vibration. You're telling the universe without words, with pure energy, this is real to me. And the universal field, which responds to vibration with precision, begins to reorganize circumstances to reflect that new coherence. That's why this process is so sacred. It resembles a silent prayer. There's no pleading, no attempt to convince some external force. There is only communion. Creative clarity is born when you observe with presence and feel with truth, when there's no longer a need to prove or achieve, because everything is already happening within you. In that state, you're not just daydreaming, you're shaping the vibrational matrix of your reality, and everything held in that silent field, with consistency and authentic feeling, begins to manifest in the physical world with ease. The secret is not to interrupt the process with doubt, haste, or effort. Creative clarity doesn't come from control, it blooms through surrender. So whenever you want to create something new in your life, before you act, before you speak, go silent. Allow yourself to observe with your heart. Feel as if it already is. Let emotion guide your vibrational field and stay there for a few minutes, gently, without expecting instant results. Because in that state, you are no longer waiting. You are already living. What happens in the field when you go silent and observe? There is a subtle, yet immense shift that happens in the field around you when you go silent and simply observe. It's not visible to the ordinary eye, but it is deeply felt by those who are attuned. In that moment, when you stop trying to control, to force, to interfere with restless thoughts or words, something begins to reorganize around you. The energetic field that surrounds everything, you, your life, your possibilities, starts responding more clearly to your essential vibration. In silence, your energy is no longer interrupted by mental noise. It becomes continuous, coherent, and where there is coherence, there is magnetism. The field aligns with your dominant frequency and begins to attract, with precision, everything that resonates with what you're emitting. Observing in silence with presence is not a passive act, it's a gesture of power. Because in that moment, you are stabilizing your vibration, sending the universe a clean signal, without interference, without contradiction. What was once scattered begins to gather. What once felt blocked begins to flow. And you start to notice subtle shifts, clearer thoughts, lighter sensations, unexpected synchronicities, encounters that seem perfectly orchestrated. It's as if the field begins to conspire in your favor with greater intelligence, precisely because you stopped creating interference. When you observe in silence, your intuition also expands. Without the mind's noise trying to predict, control, or explain, you begin to hear another voice, the inner voice that speaks gently but with certainty. You start to notice signs, symbols, and subtleties that previously went unnoticed. Decisions become more natural, more aligned. Life ceases to be a sequence of trial and error and starts to flow more intuitively, more guided. Silence also deepens your presence. You're no longer just on the surface of events. You begin to feel the depth of each moment. By observing in silence, you anchor yourself in the now. And the now is the only point where creation truly happens. That's where reality takes shape. Not in the future that hasn't arrived, nor in the past that has already dissolved. Your present observation is the spark that activates the creative field. This state of silent observation creates a magnetic field around you. People feel it, even if they can't explain it. The environment responds. Circumstances begin to arrange themselves more smoothly. You become a point of harmony in the midst of chaos, and that holds immense power of attraction. The universe gravitates toward what is in harmony with itself. And when you go silent and observe with clarity, you become exactly that, a reflection of the universe's intelligence. More than manifesting specific desires, this state returns you to your original nature, creative, conscious, connected. You stop trying to attract just things and begin to attract experiences that reflect your most authentic vibrational state. The opportunities that arise aren't just convenient. They are coherent with who you truly are. That's why silence isn't a break in the manifestation process. It is the process. It's where the field realigns, where energy purifies, where intuition blossoms. It's in the silence of observation that the magic happens. Not as a sudden trick, but as the natural unfolding of everything you are being. The mistake of trying to manifest with noise and anxiety. It's very common upon discovering the power of manifestation to fall into the trap of thinking that the more you speak, think, affirm, or repeat something, the faster the universe will respond. As if reality could be pressured into obeying your desires through insistence. And so many people end up in a cycle of anxiety disguised as spirituality. They spend the whole day repeating phrases, visualizing with effort, wondering if they're doing it right, trying to control every detail, all in an attempt to feel in charge of the process. But the universe doesn't respond to how many words you say, nor to the volume of your effort. It responds to the quality of your vibration. And vibration doesn't purify through noise. It organizes itself in silence. You can spend hours affirming that you're abundant, that all is well, that you trust the flow of life. But if, on the inside, there's restlessness, fear, insecurity, or doubt, that is what's being emitted. That is what's vibrating in the field around you. And the universe, which listens with absolute sensitivity, picks up on that hidden truth and responds to it, not to the narrative you're trying to believe. This is the most subtle and common mistake, trying to compensate for internal disconnection with excessive external action. Using spiritual practices as tools for control, when in truth they're meant to be bridges of surrender. Anxiety tries to force, predict, guarantee. Silence trusts, allows, feels. And what creates reality is not the force of control, but the clarity of vibration. The more noise you make on the outside, the less the universe understands what you want on the inside. Because noise, whether mental, emotional, or energetic, scrambles the signals. The field gets confused. The commands become contradictory. You say you want abundance, but view the world through scarcity. You say you want love, but vibrate with fear of rejection. You say you trust, but deep down you're constantly trying to be sure of everything. And the universe simply mirrors what's strongest, the frequency you are consistently holding. True manifestation doesn't arise from the anxiety of having. It comes from the peace of being, from the state in which you are already vibrating what you wish to experience, with no need to prove, to ask, or to explain. And that state is only accessible when you quiet the compulsive need to create through effort and step into the flow of conscious creation. In this context, silence is not inertia, it is precision, it is focus. It's like an archer holding the arrow steady, taking a deep breath and releasing it at the exact right moment, without rush, without tension. In silence, you access that point of balance. It's in silence that your energy stabilizes, your intention aligns, and your presence becomes magnetic. When you manifest with anxiety, the field senses urgency. And urgency is not trust, it's scarcity disguised as desire. The universe interprets something is missing and begins to reflect that. On the other hand, when you manifest with silence, the field senses presence, and presence is abundance. It's the vibration of someone who is already whole, even if still on the way. So breathe. Let go of the need to convince the universe. It already heard you before you said a word. It feels you. And when you trade the noise of anxiety for the clarity of silence, it begins to respond, not just to your desire, but to your deepest truth. And that's when manifestation stops being a struggle and becomes a natural extension of your being. We've reached the end of our journey, and perhaps now you can feel more clearly that the universe never needed to hear your words to understand your desires. Because the true conversation happens in silence. Every time you observe with presence, feel with truth, and silence with trust, you are sending out the purest signal there is. You speak to the universe when you observe with truth and silence. That is the language it understands. So here's an invitation. For the next 10 minutes, be silent. Close your eyes. Observe as if what you desire is already here. Don't speak, don't ask, just feel and trust. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the sacred language between you and the universe. And it is within that silence that everything begins to align.